Hi, Dr. Karen here. And look, this is another season of the Sister Leaders podcast. I am so excited because you know how we do. We celebrate our speakers all the way up into October, and it is starting. It is starting. So we have our first speaker of the season, Dr. Cathy Thompson. We are excited to have you here, Dr. Cathy. So we're not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about your resume because we're going to post all that when we post the podcast. But y'all know I done did some research on Dr. Cathy. I done got all up in her business. And so I have some questions because we have questions over here at the podcast because we got things we want to know. And so let's just kind of jump right into the questions. So Dr. Cathy, so my first question is this. You've had an incredible journey from the United States Navy to entrepreneurship and consulting. What first sparked your passion for business strategy and marketing?
It would be when I was actually a practicing cosmetologist and makeup artist. A lot of people don't know that about me, but that was actually my first business. And I started doing that from the kitchen with my mom. My mom used to do hair out of our kitchen, and I learned the trade and I enjoyed doing hair and making up myself, making myself look different. I wanted to be different. So that carried on throughout my journey. Even in the military, I used to do hair out of my barracks room and continued to do it. It was just something that I could call my own, something I did well. And after getting out of retiring from the Navy, I was like, I still want to work. So I continued to do hair and makeup, but due to me having degenerative arthritis in my hands, I had to pick another passion. And from my ministry group, women's ministry group, I used to always give advice on business strategies and how women can market their business. And one of the mothers, she was like, you know what? You need to be a consultant. Ding, ding, ding. Hey, that's a business idea. And so I started consulting about cosmetology and makeup strategies. And then I decided to move more into the business content because that's where all my degrees and credentials are in the business world: business management, business administration, business leadership. And that's how I became known as the business consultant and business coach.
Awesome. I love that. And so I want to talk a little bit about your transition from the military. And thank you for your service, by the way, from the military into
You're welcome.
entrepreneurship. And so many people transition from military service into all types of different careers. And so, how did your experience in the Navy shape the way you approach leadership and decision making on business today? Or did it shape your decisions in business today?
I am thankful for my military leadership and business acumen. My transition from the military to the civilian world, that's what we call when we retire and go into the workforce. It was difficult. It was very, very hard for me to transform because when I went into the military, I went in at 17 and I came out at 42. So I basically grew up in the military and that's all that I knew. So transitioning from military organization to civilian, it was totally different. My first 2 years, I called back to my last commanding officer, and I was like, "Am I going crazy? I know I got a little bit of PTSD, but what's happening here?" And he said, "You have to adjust because their structure is not like the military structure. It's like you have to start all over again." And I found out there was little trust, authority was different, the hierarchy was different. So, but it was very difficult for me to conform. So, what I did was in my first corporate job was I was like, you know what? I'm just going to use my military training. And that is what got me through. Um, my crew loved me. They was like, oh my God, you're so personable. I always had an open door policy. I never closed my office door. It was always open. Um, when we would have meetings, I would always bring breakfast or I would take them out to lunch, because I wanted them to trust me. I didn't want them to think I was all authoritarian. I had expectations and standards for everyone in their position, but I wanted them to know that I'm human. I'm human too, but I really wanted us to work together as a team. And one of my main things was team building. If you can get your team on board with your mission and vision, you can get them to do anything you want them to do. They have to trust you.
I love that. And so let's talk about another transition because you're the queen of transition. So you transitioned from the military, then you went into the workforce. So tell me about the transition from being an employee to an entrepreneur. What was that transition like?
It was hard because I'm behind the scenes. I never like to be out front. I like to be behind the scenes doing my thing. If I get credit, I get credit. I'm always, like, if God want me to be out front, he'll eventually push me out front. But, I know what I'm worthy of doing. Deep down, it's stewardship for me, being the best I can, doing what is right for the team. But becoming an entrepreneur, it was difficult. I knew the trades, I knew the business acumen, but actually putting it into play, it's like a puzzle, putting all the puzzle pieces together and to make sure they fit, because sometimes things don't fit well. But, I was never afraid of failing. I always say you fail up. When you fail, you learn the lesson and you move forward. So it was hard, but I got it together. But, even before becoming a full entrepreneur, I always say I had a side hustle, but I went into teaching. I taught Navy Junior ROTC for 10 years. Then I transitioned over to teaching business and marketing education. So I've been around the block a little bit.
I like that. So, I always love to celebrate you. So, you recently completed your doctorate of business administration and strategic marketing. And so, I'm still like at a high to call you Dr. Cathy Thompson. Congratulations on that. What
Thank
motivated you
you.
to pursue a doctorate at this stage in your career?
I always wanted to do it. Growing up, it was rough. I call my mom my shiro. My dad left her with 5 kids. And I was always the bookworm, but my father's side of the family was not so nice to us. Call us stupid, dumb. And I was like, I'm not stupid. I'm not dumb. So it was always ingrained in my brain that I was always going to be the best that I could be. I am smart. So I would read a lot of books. I even started reading the dictionary. I would learn 10 new words a day. So when in school was difficult, being poor, growing up poor, but I always stayed in my own little bubble. And my favorite class was typing. And I felt typing was my best class because I had control over that on how fast I can type and how well that I can do. So from that, I went on to be, you know, a receptionist, and that kind of started my wheels to turn in that I wanted to be admin. I wanted to be in business. And then I went to secretarial science school. Then I was like, oh, I can get a associate's degree. So I just kept going from associates in paralegal studies to a bachelor's in business management and leadership. And I kept going. MBA, specializing in entrepreneurship. And I was like, oh, do I really want to, go that route? I've heard so many stories about pursuing your doctorate. It's time consuming, it's hard. And I was like, I can do this. I don't care how long it's going to take. I'm going to do it. And, I did it. It was a journey because even my daughters, I have three daughters, and they all had their bachelors before me. So when I pursued my bachelor's and went into my master's, they was like, Mom, you kind of setting that standard high for us. And then I went in, I said, I'm going for it. I'm doing my doctorate. They was like, oh my God, Mom. I said, I'm doing it. And they were ecstatic. They're so happy. And it feels good for your children to tell you that they're proud of you. So it makes me feel really good.
I love that. My oldest daughter tells me you're not going to be the only doctor in this family. So she's finishing up her education. So I'm excited. So I know exactly what you're talking about. So we're going to change, and I have a category that's called leadership and discipline. So I have a couple of questions that I think fit in that category. And so military service is known for instilling discipline and structure. What leadership lessons from the Navy still influence the way you lead your company, your personal company today?
Being personable, being human, treating them like humans. Um, I'm a participatory boss, if you want to call that. And I like to hear their ideas. I like to expound upon, their strengths, you know, and I like to do roundtables. I like everybody to participate because sometimes when you do it as a group effort, you can come out with a better project, a better idea. And, you know, I always want people to be heard. Even coming up through the Navy, a lot of times, junior personnel wasn't heard. And I always had one when I became a chief at E7, a senior NCO, and my master chief, who was the head NCO, he was like, "Oh, you spoil them." But he couldn't get them to do anything. But I can get them to do anything I wanted them to do because I was nurturing them. I always have the nurturing conversation. I knew about everybody's family, how they were doing, how the kids were doing. And even though the military is a nice structure for finances, healthcare, dental care, still you have young people married with kids, and still it's a struggle because they have to learn how to manage their finances. So I was always there, you know, to help them, assist them, give them advice. I was just like a mother to them, nurturing the young sailors and stuff. But as far as leadership, I had one bad leader, and I said I would never be like that chief. He was awful. He didn't stand up for us. He let people run over us, other department. I couldn't stand it. I could not stand it. I was like, I would never ever be like that leader, and I wasn't. I still have people, some of the sailors they even got still contact me. They found me on Facebook, Instagram, and they was like, oh my God, and we just reminisce about the old days. So, when it comes to leadership, I take it serious. It's about nurturing people, nurturing your team and making sure everyone is on one accord, following the same mission, following the same vision.
I love it. I love it. So, what do many leaders misunderstand about strategy when they're trying to kind of grow their business? When you think about entrepreneurship,
I think sometimes when it comes to strategy, they do not understand the concept of it. A lot of times I think I'm a reader, avid reader. I love to read before I jump into anything to make sure I understand the concept, key terms of what it is I'm trying to pursue. And I think oftentimes when it comes to strategy, they get strategy, kind of confused with tactics. Tactics is when you're attacking something, you're laying it out, but you're not planning. Strategy to me is being very detailed in your planning. Step one, step two, step three, and then have a backup plan. What's your contingency plan if it doesn't work? Instead of just jumping in and say, oh, if it doesn't work, then we'll try something else. Plan first. Have a strategy. Because especially if you have a team following you. Because if you don't understand what you're doing and you're all over the place, they go like, what's going on? They don't know what's going on, you know? I'm not following that person. They don't know what's happening, you know? So, and I really don't like to use the phrase, I used it back in the day, but in my more veteran days of wisdom, words of wisdom, fake it till you make it. Sometimes that doesn't work. Can't fake it till you make it.
Amen. I agree. I agree. All right. So let's move on to business strategy and growth. So, as a strategic marketing expert, what separates businesses that grow substantially from those that struggle to scale?
Really understanding your business. A lot of people understand the front end, but they don't understand the back end. The back end is your systems, how they work, even your finances. You don't have to be a bookkeeper or a CPA, but just understanding your finance. What are you making? What's your profit? What's your revenue? Know the terms, your return on investment. Just knowing a little bit about your business. What are your systems? What are your operating systems? How do they work? You know, if they're not working, how do you fix them? Don't rely solely on your project manager or even your virtual assistant if you have one. Know your business in and out. And I teach my students that. I teach accounting, personal finance, business marketing, and entrepreneurship. But I always tell them, because kids like, I'm gonna be rich, I'm gonna be the boss, make all this money. But understand understand your business, because they see the glory of it, the front end. I always say the front end, but I teach them about the financial part of it as well. Even a little bit about forecasting, and they're like, really? You have to plan out? Yeah. How do you think your business is going to succeed? How much money do you want to, project to make in 5 years, 3 years, 10 years? Are you going to be in business that long? So, you know, I try to teach them everything about the business, knowing the back end as well as the front end.
Absolutely. And I love that. And plan to be in business. Because if you're not
Yes,
planning for the future, then are you really planning to be in business? So I love
correct.
that. I love that. One other question about strategy and growth. So when you start working with a new organization or a new client, what are the first indicators that reveal whether their business model is strong or needs some type of transformation? What are the indicators?
KPIs, their analytics. I look at their numbers. I'm not a numbers person, but when it comes to business, you have to look at the numbers and how well they actually know their business. Because I believe a lot of people, they love the idea of saying, I have a business, I own a business, but do you actually run a business? Do you operate the business? How do you know that it's a viable business? How do you know if it's feasible? Is it going to work? So I look at one client I had. They wanted to do a business. I call them my baby boots. They were green. They just knew they had an idea and they wanted to make it work. So I worked with them for a year, and I kind of went through it like I would teach my students. I actually taught them how to run their business just in case they wanted to do a runoff. But knowing if the business is viable, we did a product concept idea builder. And doing the research, you have to do market research as well. And people don't understand that. Knowing who your competitors are, what's trending in your market, because now with the industry, things change every day. It's something new, jumping off new every day, especially in health and wellness. There's so many spinoffs from that. And now with the tariffs, people who are in health and wellness and ordering products from overseas, the taxes is high. It's crazy, you know. So you just have to look at everything. Look at your product, build it out, do your market research, do your market analysis, look at your KPIs, look at your numbers, and actually who is your target audience or your target market? Because people think they can market to everybody. You don't market to everybody, and sometimes in your industry, you have to niche down if you want to make money. You can't be out there with everyone. You're not going to make money. There's money out there to be made, but how are you going to make it?
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's good. So you answered one of my other questions too. So let's talk about the future of business and technology because I love technology. So emerging technologies are rapidly changing how companies operate. What technologies do you believe businesses should be paying attention to right now?
AI.
Okay,
AI is off the chain. And,
explain,
yeah,
explain.
I mean, there's so many versions of AI now. And with AI, if you use it correctly, it can make your life so much easier in your business. I have my AI assistant who is Claude. Claude is my assistant. He helps me with everything. And I've trained Claude to do, different write ups and stuff for me, but using my voice, using my business tone. He knows my business colors. He knows what I do, everything. When I go in, I say, hey, Claude, I'm looking to find a government contract or a sole provider. I'm a service disabled veteran. What kind of contracts is out there? He would say, good evening, Dr. Cathy. How are you? Of course, I can help you with that. so, but with AI, you can train it to do prompts for you, and it is so helpful. So helpful. Um, at one time, machine learning and blockchain, I think they're probably going to merge that more with AI as well when it comes to currency, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. Oh my God, it's just so much, and I'm trying to stay on track with everything, especially with AI. But AI was around years ago. They just have refined it now to where it's incredible. It's incredible.
Yep, I believe it. I believe it. I love it. I plan to get AI certified myself. It is awaken something in me as well, and I use it every day. Can I
Me too.
Every day I use it, and and it's not the little things like people use like Google. No, I use it for major stuff, and I have figured out that it is really a resource and a tool that has really elevated my business,
Mhm.
and people need to view it as that, as something. It's a resource and a tool that can help elevate your business. Okay, so from your perspective as a strategist, well, hold on one second. This is to be more specific about AI because this question is about AI, but it's to be more specific. It says, from your perspective as a strategist, how will artificial intelligence reshape marketing and entrepreneurship over the next decade?
Oof. As a strategist, oh my God, with AI, Dr. Karen, I don't know, being futuristic, shoot, we'll probably have robots doing our marketing for us. I mean, I've seen them in some capacity already working where they have many robots actually making things and doing the marketing as well, going out. Where was I at? My husband and I travel so much. I'm trying to think. The last place I was at, I think we were in Miami in a conference. And in the Uber driving, I see these robot cars out delivering food to people. I was like, oh my God. And if someone comes in front of them, they stop, they get to the stop sign, but they're out, robot cars out delivering food.
Yeah, yeah.
Could you imagine that? I was in awe.
Like
I
you're
was
living
like,
in
babe,
another time. You feel like you're living in a movie or something.
like, all right. We both looking. It was out delivering food.
Yeah, I
Robots,
love it.
robot
I
carts.
love it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're gonna move to the next category, which is entrepreneurship and purpose. This year I'm all about purpose and profit, and
Mhm.
so gotta have a section on purpose. And so you lead with faith, integrity, and service. How does your Christian faith influence the way you approach business and leadership?
Uh, God is always first. I pray every day. Anything I do, in my life and in my business, I always go to God first because sometimes business can be overwhelming when things come, but I always ask God, line it up for me. I always want my purpose in life to be part of how I direct myself in my business. Being up, I always say, one of my talents and gifts is of steadfast stewardship to God, here to serve the people. I always think my thing is to educate people. I have so much education, I have so much knowledge. It's mine to give. This is what I'm here to do, to serve, to help, humankind. Purpose, I think everyone should really tap into see what their purpose is in life. Um, I always like the phrase purpose driven life. What is your purpose driven life? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing in this lifetime? How am I supposed to be serving God? What is it, God, you want me to do? What am I supposed to be doing?
I love it. So let's talk about balance. If it's any
Ooh,
such thing as balance, many
there is.
many entrepreneurs struggle with balancing success and purpose. So how do you define meaningful success? What is Dr. Cathy's definition of meaningful success?
Meaningful success to me is having peace in my life. It's not, at one time, I used to think it was the money, but I had to learn what my relationship with money was, what my relationship to success was. And growing up poor, of course, it was always money until I started spending money and found myself I was broke. I was like, oh, this ain't working. I got to restructure myself. How's this going to work? So, I found out what my relationship with money was and with success. Having a successful life and a balance is being at peace, having all the necessities that I need, not necessarily the desires or wants, but the necessities. And I think for me, I've achieved that in my education route with my degree. Of course, I'll still be learning. I call myself a professional student. Um, but with life in general, on my second marriage, I never thought I would remarry, but my husband is my soulmate, and I love it because with him, he treats me like the queen that I am. I had to relearn some things, him opening the door for me. I was like, I can open the door myself. He's like, no, that's my job, so, but work life balance is being able to be successful, take care of my wifely duties at home, being a mom and grandma, and just living life in peace. Sometimes it's hard, but for me as a woman, self care is very important because if I'm burnt out and tired, I'm no good to anyone, let alone myself. So I have to make sure I have that work life balance. And sometimes I get so into my business and teaching, and my husband be like, "Can you put me on your calendar?" I was like, "Oh, honey, hold on. Let me restructure this whole calendar right here." You know, so sometimes because I'm a worker. I've always worked all my life since I was 16. And if it's something I'm excited about, my head just spins. I'm into it. So sometimes yeah, do the little nudge, and even sometimes the Holy Spirit will nudge me and say, "Hey, Cathy, don't you think you need to slow down a little bit? Because if you don't, He will sit you down." So oftentimes I have to reassure myself of realigning my life. What's going on in my life? What's the priority? Is it necessary? Can it wait? So,
Love it. I love it. Just a few more questions because I want them to know all about you. Just a few more.
that's
So,
fine.
what advice would you give women who aspire to build successful businesses but feel intimidated by the challenges of entrepreneurship?
I would tell them to go for it because you won't know unless you try it. Even for me starting out in cosmetology, I mean, I always did stuff around the house. I'm a little Southern girl, but just getting out there in the real world beyond South Carolina, in the military. That's one of the things I loved about the military, traveling, going new places, but just trying it. Try it. See what you can do. If you can't handle it, you know, get someone to help you, but you won't know until you try it.
All right, so let's talk about next generation. The next generation. So we use the word legacy and impact a lot as business owners. And so looking ahead, what impact do you hope your consulting work and mentorship will have on the next generation of business leaders?
I hope that it will encourage them to continue to keep the market going, be strategic in what they do, and keep learning. Not everything happens too fast, but you need to know the theory behind it. I think oftentimes, especially with the new generation, they want it like right now, right now. But sometimes you need to go through the theory to understand the application of business, really understand it. And as far as legacy, even with my daughters, I am hoping they keep my business running. They're all in their own little world right now. I have two in the medical field, and one, she's just in the Air Force, she's in Intel. So I hope they either start something of their own or continue to run my business when I decide to exit out.
Okay, and then my closing question, and then I want you to tell the sister leaders community what you got coming up, what you got to sell, any books, programs, or whatever. But my closing question is if you could leave entrepreneurs and professionals with one powerful principle for thriving in today's rapidly changing business landscape, what would it be?
Growth happens in collaboration. Find people, like minded people that you can collaborate with, that you can network with, and grow your business. I used to be a one and done, a one only, but then I soon found out that when I network and I collaborate with like minded people, that actually helps my business. It helps me to grow as a woman, it helps me to grow as an entrepreneur, and it helps my business grow with the contacts that I meet within my collaboration and in partnerships.
Awesome. So tell the Sister Leaders community where you live at, where you hang at, online, how they can stay connected, what you got coming up. You got any books? You got any services? We just want to know all those good things. Just tell us all the meat and potatoes of Dr. Cathy Thompson.
Well, Dr. Cathy Thompson is hailing out of Charleston, South Carolina, the Low Country. I hang out on Instagram at Cathy Newman Consultant. I hang out at LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, Cathy Newman Consultant. I have a website, www.cathycnewman.com. I am currently writing a book, a personal book about my life. It's a little bit more than a memoir. And I'm actually creating some courses, business courses that I will be offering through Kajabi. Business marketing, entrepreneurship, and some personal finance, more about financial literacy, helping people really understand the basics of their personal wealth as well as their net worth.
I love that. So, if you could say in one sentence, who are your ideal clients for the people who are out there wondering if they are possibly your ideal client? Who would you say your ideal client is?
My ideal clients are entrepreneurs and small business owners looking to align their business strategies together to market successful drives and strategies. One thing I would say to the small business owners and entrepreneurships, you must be purpose driven. Purpose driven. Remember, purpose comes first, profit comes last.
You speaking my language now. You talk about purpose, you talk about profits now. I
Yeah,
love, love
yeah.
it, love it. So this has been wonderful. Make sure you hook up with Dr. Cathy, stay connected to her so you can find out all the wonderful things that she's doing in this space called life. And of course, I will be remiss if I did not begin to start reminding everyone that not only will Dr. Cathy be hitting the stage in October 2nd and 3rd for this year's conference, Sister Leaders Conference, it's going to be October 2nd and 3rd. The website is still the same, sisterleadersconference.com. Our theme this year is purpose led, profit focus. And so, where you lead with purpose, the goal is that profit will eventually follow. And so, we are excited about all the things that we're going to talk about that leads up to that. We're going back to the Rivers Casino this year. Last year, we sold out, had to shut tickets down. This year, we're going to see how we can reconfigure the room to fit some more people in there. And so I am excited about those that are going to hit the stage like Dr. Cathy. I'm excited about those individuals who are subject matter experts in their lane of brilliance, who are willing to pour into you for those 2 days. This is going to be an exciting year. This is year 6 of the conference.
Yeah.
We made it past year 5. Some people tap out. We still here. We still here. We
Yeah.
still breathing. But yeah, we're going into year 6, and so I am excited. And we are also looking for other speakers. If you think that you have a lane of brilliance, an area expertise, that then make sure that you reach out to me at admin@drkarenhillsprudent.com. Just email me and let me know that you're interested, and we'll talk. Not everybody gets to hit the stage at Sister Leaders, unfortunately, because you can't partner with everybody. But I do
So,
interview everybody. I maybe don't accept everybody, but I do interview everybody, hear what you have done in this space called life, hear about your lane of brilliance, encourage you to stay connected with the community, because most of the individuals who are part of the Sister Leaders community have come back year after year after year. So we are really making an impact. We're really growing. Of course, we're a global community. We will continue to feed our global attendees as well on this year. So we'll be live streaming. And so last year I went to London and Barcelona. Well, last year I went to Ghana and Barcelona. And then prior to that, I went to London. And so I am also making my international moves so that they can reciprocate in terms of the events that we have here. But one thing I have learned for sure, and you will find this out as experts in your field, we aren't that special in the US. You know, in the US, women leaders have a problem with being seen, being heard, and being paid correctly. They still have those same pain points in Ghana. They have those same pain points in England. They have those same pain points in Paris and in Greece. All those areas that I've spoken, they have the same. So it's a global issue. You know, it's a global issue. And so there are plenty of people that you can help and assist. And so if you think that you have a skill set that you can talk about and you have a framework that has worked for you and you have put it to the test and have found it to be successful, then definitely reach out to me. I'm not going to keep you long because, you know, I don't do a whole bunch of talking just for the sake of talking. But again, the website is sisterleadersconference.com. And unless you got something else to share, Dr. Cathy, we are going to wrap this up.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for allowing me to honor your stage and your platforms. I am most grateful. Thank you, Dr. Karen.
Thank you for being an honorable sister leader that you are and being so awesome and being Dr. Cathy Thompson. Yay, yay,
Yay!
yay. Yeah, we like people that completes goals. We like people that complete goals. And on that, I'm going to say good night, everyone.